Hi, John here. Today we have a 2008 Toyota Highlander. We're going to do the rear brakes on. So I've taken the rear tire off already so we can get to the brakes. And your caliper bolts here, there's going to be 2 of them to take off. But before you do that, what I like to do, and you can do this a few different ways, but this is fast and easy, and I'm a veteran of the business, 25 years, so I always like to move fast. You can stick this in between the rotor and the caliper right up against the rotor. And if you pry, you can see where the screwdriver is coming through right here. If you pry, that'll push the piston in, and then you don't have to worry about it later. A lot of guys like to take the caliper apart, and I'll show you that once I get these bolts off of this. One 14mm. I'm doing all this with hand tools, so it'll take me even a little longer. Because most of you are probably going to use hand tools. So if you look here, piston is pushed in. If you look at my last video, we had twisting calipers. These are just regular push in. And you do not have to open the bleeder screws. Never open your bleeder screws unless you lose fluid or you've changed in a hydraulic part. A lot of people will tell you that you have to open the bleeder screw up here and push the piston in and the fluid out of it. No, don't do that. It's stupid. It's a waste of time. And in New England, you start messing with bleeder screws, you snap it off. Now you've got big issues because this is a steel bleeder. This is an aluminum caliper. Probably going to wreck it and never seal again. So don't make headaches for yourselves. Alright, so I'm taking these out and looking at them because you got the little, on this one, you got the little squeak sensor, so when you back up, it makes that annoying, sounds like somebody's running over a mouse noise. So remember where that goes. That's the inner pad. You can see where the piston was pushing against the pad. That's how you know the inner and the outer. And I'll show you why you need to know that as soon as I get the rest of this thing apart. So, got a couple of 17s to take the caliper bracket off. And this has to come off to release the rotor. The rotor ain't going to come out without it being out of your way. And we got to do some work on these anyhow. So that's off. Now this, normally, like I did in other videos, I'll take a cookie wheel and I'll clean this all up with my cookie wheel and a Scotch-Brite type attachment. But this one, you don't have to do that because it's really in good shape. We got our new rotor. Now, you'll notice a recessed hole right here. If you look on your new rotor, or your old rotor, there's a plug right here, a little rubber plug, and there's a recessed hole. What's that for? Well, if you want to adjust the parking brake up when these shoes start to wear down a little, they shouldn't wear down, but they do over time. You can there's an adjustment wheel right here, so you pop this plug out of the rotor. Then I'm putting in a new rotor. Pop that plug out, and these holes here, you line that plug up with one of the holes, and when you need to adjust the parking brake, you pop this out, and then you get a little your adjusting spoon, or you can probably just even use a screwdriver, which is probably just as easy, and you adjust the brake until you just feel a little bit of drag. But these are in good shape. I'm not messing with those. Alright, next thing, I buy good brake pads. These happen to be Auto Part International brake pads, and they come with these things here that I'm peeling off. I call them brake hardware or tins. They're just a little tin. Most of the time, underneath of that tin, these are so rusted that if you don't get under there with like a die grinder and get the rust out of there, you won't even be able to put the new pads in, because the rust builds up to a point where it squeezes the pad. But these are in good shape. I just scrape them off a little bit, and that's good to go. So here's my new tin. So I pop that on there easily. That. And we get the other one like that. So now we got a nice new surface for our brake pads. Don't cheap out on brake pads. They're only maybe $10 more than the cheapo version, and they're gonna squeak, they're gonna make noises. They don't come with the hardware. It's just stupid, so don't do it. Now, I showed you the little squeaker. Another thing they give you is a squeaker, otherwise you'd have to take this off. And if this pad was worn down enough and chewed away the squeaker, then you'd have to use that over. But good pads, they give you a new one. So the arch is on the bottom and top like that, so it's on the left side. So you want to do that. Pop the new one on in the same position. Oftentimes they only have one squeaker. This one doesn't have it, so don't worry about that. It's very common. You're not missing anything. Another thing, make sure your sliders, this goes for any brake job, 99% of them have these sliders. Take them out, dip it in your brake grease. Make sure that the rubber boot sits over the lip and seals the water out of that. You get water in there, these brakes will last you 2,000 miles, and you'll be back doing this and replacing the caliper. So I take some brake grease so the pad can slide back and forth as well. You want everything nice and freed up, so nice and greased. And that's pretty much it. The rest is reverse procedure. You get your 17s on. .17mm bolts that hold the bracket on. And always replace your rotors. They're a wear item. They're made and designed to wear out, so just replace them. They're pretty inexpensive today, and if you live in New England, they're so rusty and they always warp, so you want to do a nice job on it. Especially if you're watching this video, then you're doing it yourself anyways, so you're saving yourself money. Might as well do a nice job while you're doing it. Again, don't be cheap. Okay, we got our squeaker pad. Squeaker goes on the inside, as we referenced earlier. this one goes on the outside. See now, nice and free. Everything slides in and out, pops in and out very easily. Caliper on. Now I recommend looking up on the internet the torque specs. So I've been doing this a long time, so I know what too tight is and not tight enough is after hundreds of thousands of bolts that I've taken out and put back in. So I kind of have a feel for things, but I recommend getting out your torque wrench so you don't lose any bolts, nothing falls out, you don't snap anything. People think, I think a lot of times, that you gotta go tighter than you really should. They're like really cranking down on it. As long as they're tight, there's no way they should be backing out. And that's about it. It's good to go. So, definitely always put a jack stand under the car. Never work under just a jack, first and foremost. And like I said, don't cheap out on the parts. Do the job right, or you won't be happy with it. Then you'll bring it to your shop and you'll have to pay a professional, and it'll just cost you more in the long run. Another thing of importance, tighten these wheels with a torque wrench. That's not something I do by hand. That's something I do in a star pattern every time with a wrench, a torque wrench, no exceptions. If you tighten this bolt at 90, this bolt at 30, this bolt 110, when this thing heats up and warp, it's going to warp the heck out of the rotor, and you're going to get a pulsation. And the pulsations, when you hit the brakes and the whole car goes, that's a pulsation, and that's because of a warped rotor. So good rotor care. Go to a shop, don't ever let them just take the gun and zap all the wheels on. If you got clowns like that working on your car, go to a different shop. They're living in the 1970s. So get out of there, go somewhere else. Okay, and that does it for today. I hope this helps you. You can do it yourself, so not that hard. All right, talk to you next time. Thanks.